Welcome to Mr. Getz's Flipped Classroom. Got math problems we're going to be looking at today. First one here, Best Grass Mowing Company put fertilizer on 16 out of 25 lawns that were mowed in the Valley West neighborhood. Record the percentage. Okay, we have 16 out of 25. Whenever we do a percentage, this is going to be at a rate of 100. Now, to convert this fraction here, what do I multiply the top by and the bottom by to get this bottom to 100? If I do, I don't want to put that there, that's confusing. So this dot or an x is going to be multiplied by. I'm going to multiply the top by 4, I'm going to multiply the bottom by 4. Will equal something over 100. Let's do 16 times 4. It's going to be 4, 2 for up there, 6, 64. And anything over 100 like that for a percentage, what percentage of lawns were fertilized? It is 64. We want to say 64%. Very nice. Next up, David bought a new washing machine for $680. He received a discount of 1/5 off the original price. Represent this fraction as a decimal and a percentage. This fraction as a decimal and a percentage. So we have the fraction here, so this is 1/5. If we do this as a decimal, this is something to memorize here. This is one of our benchmark fractions to remember that this is actually 0.2. So that's something to memorize there, that is equal to 0.2. If you want to figure it out, you can. What you would do then is say, how many times does 5 go into 1? 5 can't go into 1. Well, it can, but it goes less than 1 time. We look at this here, multiply by 2, 10, 0, 0. So right there, we see that 0.2. Let's see what that discount is. We have 680 is what this thing costs. Let's multiply by 0.2 to see what that discount amount is. 0, 6, 1 for up there, 13. Bring our decimal down. Discount of $136. Take that off the original. You get 680, don't need a decimal there. Minus 136. Subtract this, 4, that one goes to a 7. 7 minus 3 is going to be 4. And then over here is 5. 544 what? Dollars. Doesn't really ask for what the amount paid was, but I don't really like the wording of this question here. Let's keep going. Got the next one. We have a watch. A watch. 2 ways to do this. See some student work here, right? Some students took a look at this last week. Original price of the watch is $120. The watch is on sale and the discount percentage is shown below. What is the sale price of the watch? 2 ways to do it. I'm going to show one way first. Let's find that discount amount. We take that 35%. 35% as a decimal is 0.35. Multiply 0.35, 120 times 0.35 to see how much off we're getting. 5 times 0 is going to be 0. 5 times 2 is going to be 10. 0, put the 1 up there. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. And then we bring a 0 down because we're now multiplying by our tens place there. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. Let's go ahead and add these up. 2, 1 for up there, and look at our decimal point right there. We're going to take $42 off this. If we have 120 minus 42, take that, that'll go to, that'll be an 8, 11, and then 11 minus 4 is going to be 7. So we have that $78. Now, another way to do this that I thought about when we talked about this in class was if we have this 35% off, you're actually paying, see if we get this here, do this 5, 9, 6. You're paying 65% of the whole price, 65% of that 120. If we were to say 120 times 0.65, we should get the same number, $78 over here. Let's see if it works. 5 times 0 is going to be 0. 5 times 2 is going to be 0. 1 for up there. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. Bring down to 0 because we're doing the tens place. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 2 is 12. 2, we put another 1 up there. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 0, 8, 7. 1, 2 decimal points, 2 decimal points. That matches. Yes. 2 different ways to solve the same problem. Last one of this style here. Greenbrier Mansion has 300 acres of land that need to be mowed. Mowing Mansion's lawn care company will mow 55% of the acres. How many acres will the company mow? If they have 300 acres, 55% are going to be mowed. 55% of 300 is going to be our answer. Take that 300, take this 0.55. 55% as a decimal is 0.55. Multiply this. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 0 is 0. Right neatly, right? 5 times 3 is 15. And for the tens place, bring down a 0. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 3 is 15. Add these up. 0, 0, 5, 6, 1. 1, 2 decimal points. 1, 2 decimal points. Right here. 165 what? 165 acres mowed. We want to remember our units. We want to remember our units. Very nice. Next up, we have this worksheet students were working through. For each value, provide the decimal, percentage, and simplified fraction if it's not provided by the value, and then we're going to go ahead and box in our answers. First one's going to be a benchmark here. This one just needs to be memorized. If we have 50%, 50% is half of it. I have half of it. And then move the decimal point over 2 spots to go to 0.5 is what it's going to be as a decimal. This one here, need to reduce it. So up here we see some reduction or simplification. Simplification, reducing is the same thing. The example here shows dividing by 2 to get that to a more simplified form. Now, what I'm going to do with this is, what is the biggest number that goes into 4, also goes into 16? Yes, you can do 2 and get yourself 2 over 8, but what if we just go with that 4 divided by 4 divided by 4? 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 16 4 times, because 4 times 4 equals 16. 1 times 4 equals 4. That's to check work. If you got a quarter, how many pennies do you have? If you have a quarter, you have 25 pennies, 0.25. Another one of those benchmarks we need to have memorized. This one right here, let's just take that 68 over 100. Let's go ahead and divide by 2, see what happens, see what we get to. So 68 divided by 2, see if this goes in here. Remember our decimals again, right? If we need them, this goes in here 3 times, 6, 0, bring down the 8, 4, 34. 34 over 50, divide by 2 again, divide by 2 again. 34 divided by 2, let's say 17. This guy here divided by 2, 25. That looks pretty good to me. I don't think there's anything else that we can divide these both by to make it any more simplified. 7 out of 35. Don't let the language confuse you. 7 out of 35 is 7 35ths. Divide the top by 7. Divide the bottom by 7. Is 1 over how many times? What times 7 equals 35? What times 7 equals 35? 5 times 7 equals 35. As I read a 3. Right? So 35 divided by 7 equals 5. 48%. Let's go 48 over 100. Go to 0.48 as well. Divide the top by 2. Divide the bottom by 2. 24 over 50. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. Let's do 12 over 25. I don't know if we can take anything else out of that. Divide them both. Can't divide them by 2. Can't divide this by 3. Can't divide this by 4. Can't divide that by 5. Can't divide this by 6. Yeah, so nothing else to divide that into. Again, oh, it says to box in our answers, right? So didn't have our answers boxed in here. Oh, and this would also be 68%. Yep, had that. Got this, boxing in answers, wonderful, following the instructions. Does it say to box in? Yes, it says to box in right there. Now, what do we do with this guy here? If we wanted to see this guy as a, how do we get that 15 to 100? We multiply by 6, 15 by times 6, 0, 3, 90. Multiply by 7, 15 by 7, 5, 3, 105. This is going to be a little bit more tricky. Well, one thing we could do, let's go ahead and we could divide the top by 3 and divide the bottom by 3. Right, see what that does. What times 3 equals 12? What times 3 equals 12? 4. So 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4, and then 15 divided by 3 is going to be 5. Check our work. 4 times 3 equals 12. 5 times 3 equals 15. I like it. 4/5. 4/5, that is kind of one of those benchmark ones where we know what that is going to be 0.80 or 0.8. It's going to be 80%. And this is just one to memorize again, but if you want to figure it out, how many times does 5 go into 4? Let's go ahead and divide this here. It's going to go in less than 1 time, somewhere between 0 and 1. What times 5 equals 40? 8 times 5 equals 40, right there. So that's another way to check our work. 3 out of 12 reminds me of this one over here, 7 out of 35. Let's do it. 3 over 12. What's a big number that goes into 3 that also goes into 12? Let's divide by 3. A lot of this is plugging and chugging, trying different numbers. I introduced that as a strategy to work with, plugging and chugging. 3 divided by 3 is going to be equal to 1, and then 12 divided by 3 is going to be equal to 4. 4 times 3 equals 12. 1 times 3 equals 3. Checking our work there. 1/4. It's also 0.25. If you have 1/4, how much do you have? How many pennies do you have? 25 pennies. Very nice. 5 over 8. This one you can memorize. I don't have this one memorized myself. I'm just going to do division to figure this one out. How many times does 8 go into 5? Well, let's see how many times using long division here. It's going to go in less than once. Let's try a 6. 6 times 8 is 48. Minus 2, bring down the 0. Let's see if that sucker goes in there twice. 2 times 8 is going to be 16. Is 4. Bring down the 0. And a round number is 5. It's right here. 0.625 as a decimal. And then we could also do 62.5%. And sometimes the instructions does say to round, and this doesn't say anything about rounding. So we're just going to leave that exactly where it is. If it did say to round to the nearest whole percent, then it'd be 63%, because that 5 would go on to the next one, the next whole number. 0.36. 0.36, 36 over 100. Let's go ahead and divide by 2. They're both even numbers. That's a good place to start if they're both even numbers. Just go ahead and divide by 2. Say 18 over 50. Yes? 18 over 50. Looks good to me. Let's divide by 2 again. You may look at this and know a bigger number, like 4, for example. Yeah, 4 goes into both of them. Let's do 2. We'll do 2 again. It's going to give us 9 over 25. I'm kind of sort of happy with that, like that 9 over 25. And then we could also do our percentage, which is 36%. Again, we're boxing in answers. And then this last one here was kind of tricky. It was kind of neat seeing this one in class. Some of the students figured this out. You look at it, you're like, I don't know. Does 7 go into it? Who knows? But what I did was long division here on this one. So we had the 77. Let's see how many times 308 goes into it. Put our zeros here. It's not going to go in one. It's going to go in less than once. Let's go ahead and multiply this here. So let's say it goes in here twice. 308 times 2. 6, 1 for up there, 1, 6, 16. 6, 16. Go ahead and subtract. It's going to be 4. Take that down to a 6. 5, 154. Bring down a 0. Oh, sorry, 1,540. Now this is crazy. Watch this. I put in what did I put in, a 5? Yeah, I put in a 5. So the way this works is 308 times 5. 0, 4, 5 times 3 is 15, 1540. This is actually the same thing. 77 over 308 is actually the same as 1/4. Very nice. Let's take a look at the warm-ups from this past week. We had 3 warm-ups that we're looking at. Let's look at this warm-up here first. What is 10% of 200? 10% as a decimal is going to be 0.1. Let's go ahead and multiply that times 200. 0, 0, 2. Don't forget where that decimal goes. Your answer is 20. 9/12 as a decimal. Let's go ahead and reduce it. 9 over 12. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. Should be 3 over 4. Yes. If you have 3/4, how many pennies do you have? You have 75. 0.75 is your answer. 3/4 is 0.75. What is 1/5 of 80? 1/5 of 85. 1 over 5 we had calculated earlier. This one should be memorized as 0.2. I figured that one out earlier. Remember, I went to see how many times 5 goes into 1, 0.2. Let's take 85 then and multiply it by 0.2. 2 times 5 is 10, 0, put the 1 up there. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17. The answer is going to be 17. What is 60% of 150? That's 0.6 times 150. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 5 is 30. Bring the 0 down here, put the 3 up there. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. Don't forget your decimal point. Decimal point. There's your answer. 60% of 150 is 90. All right, this one, instructions kind of got cut off a little bit here on this remaining copy that I have of this one. Now, number these from least to greatest. Now, looking at this, number them, so 1, 2, 3, 4, numbering them from least to greatest. 0.1, 0.75, 1/2, and 5/6. I would change this 1/2 here to 0.5, and then you could change this 5 over 16 into a decimal as well. Let's go ahead and do that. So we can take 16, see how many times it goes into 5. It's going to go in less than once. Let's say this is going to be, what is that, a 4? Try a 3? Let's try a 3. 3, that'll be 8, 1 for up there, 4, 21, 0.31 approximately. You can multiply that out there, whatever, 4 bring down to 0, 3.1. Do 2 times. Yeah, 2 times would be 32, would be an 8, so whatever. So 0.31. Now another way to look at this is 5/6. If you were to do a number line here, right, so it'd be 0.1 looks small, and then next up 0.31, next up 0.5, and then last but not least 0.75 in order. Another way to look at this is a a little bit less than a half, right? This 0.31 is going to be less than 0.5 because 8/16 would have been 0.5. So we're going to number these least to greatest, least 1, 2, 3, 4 is your correct answer. And then it says, what are each of these as a decimal? So I had some students that were trying to turn these into percentages, had other students that were doing different things with these, but you gotta read the instructions. Number least to greatest, then over here, what are each of these as a decimal? These should be memorized. A quarter, right? 0.25. A half, 0.5. If you have 3/4, how much do you have? 3/4, you have 75 cents. And then this 1/5 we're seeing reviewing again is 0.2. So driving home what these benchmark fractions are here. All right, last little sheet of paper. Yes, this was one full week of work in Mr. Gitz's classroom. What is 3/8 as a decimal? Let's see how many times 8 goes into 3. Divide this out here. It's going to go less than 1 time. Let's try a 6, 5, 4, 3, 3, 3. 24, 6, bring down the 0. 7 is 56, sometimes 8 is 56. 4, bring down the 0. And 5, 0.375, 0.375. What is 20% of 120? 20%. 120 times 0.2, 0.2, 0, 4, 2. 1 decimal, the answer is going to be 24. What is a quarter plus a half? A quarter plus a half. Well, you could look at this as a half is 2/4. So one way to look at this would be to say, oh, I have a half, but let's take this half. Okay, so, well, let's take the quarter first. So we have this quarter, 1 over 2. 1 over 4. We have the quarter, 1 over 4. Plus 1 over 2. You can't add these unless they have a similar denominator. Numerator's top, denominator's bottom. D denominator, down. That's where I remember it. D down, D denominator. Then the numerator's on the top. We can multiply this by 2, multiply this by 2. This is 2 over 4. So 1 over 4 plus 2 over 4 is equal to 3 over 4. Another way to look at this is a half is going to be 2/4. Right? If you have 2/4, then you have a 3rd quarter. Once again, you have 3/4 is equal to 0.75. So we have that 3 over 4 is also equal to 0.75. Either answer is correct. And then looking at the hundredths place here, we have our tenths place. We have our hundredths place here. hundredths, crazy. Hundredths right there, and then right there. Well, thank you for spending some time with Mr. Getz in his flipped classroom. It's wonderful teaching math and having the privilege to work with fine young folks every day.